an outside group of people to make it?
Yes, because as Lexi said, it was like watching something. I mean, I felt that. I felt as if I was. It was like watching a programme on the Upper Volta, except it was people that walked and talked like me.
Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you, Alexis Sale. Thank you, Rosie Thomas. Thank you, Bill Forsyth. Well, as I mentioned earlier, a great deal of artifice goes into every television programme in order to iron out rough edges and give pace and smoothness to the finished product. Here's Nick Ross with a voyage round the tricks of the trade.
Thanks, Ludo. This then is a sort of layman's guide. What to watch for, how to see the joins that we go to so much trouble to conceal. For example, Ludo, well, of course, he's not there. It's not lunchtime yet, and he's still in the office preparing the script. The fact is, this programme is recorded and in 2 chunks. Now, you may think that that's devious. We like to call it craftsmanship. We justify it on the grounds that you're not constantly distracted by the mechanics of how the television is made. But there's a delicate line between a technical trick and cheating. So here, partly for a bit of fun, but partly because I, for one, am convinced that you, the viewer, ought to know what we're up to, here are some of the technical tricks so that you can decide for yourself on their morality. For example, how do you tell if a programme is live? Now, in the old days of high integrity, Radio Times always used to tell you. Now, you have to look for this. These are cue dots, and they're a message to the studio, stand by, 30 seconds to go. At 10 seconds before going on air, they disappear. That's the cue to run up the film with the programme titles up to speed. So, no cue dots at the start, it's not live. This is another clue to watch for. If the presenter has an earpiece, it's usually when it's live in case anything goes wrong. Of course, this is a recording, so I don't need it. I do need this, though, if I'm to be word perfect. Now, if I slow, the prompter slows, and if I race, the operator follows. Of course, they have a terrible job if I start ad-libbing, because they don't really know where to come back in. So just in case, if it's a live programme, you'll see scripts around too, like this, usually yellow so as not to reflect the glare. Some programmes, though, which are live, try to do without untidy paper scripts to give the impression that they're slick ad-lib, but not always successfully.
We buy 6,322 million pain-killing pills a year. So divide this lot by the population of Great Britain and multiply it by 55, and this is what we get. Can't see the autocue.
Television is a complete paradox. By very definition, of course, broadcasting means you're talking to thousands and usually millions of people. And yet it could hardly be more intimate. It comes into your own home, into your living room, even your bedroom. So for all the abstract millions, we're actually speaking to an individual. And that intimacy has to be contrived. This is a quiet little interview with Katie Boyle, filmed in her own home this week for breakfast time.
I love knowing about everything, but I would never stir, and I don't think I would ever divulge a secret of somebody.
What about the sign of youth? Germany is the sign of youth. Does youth or growing older worry you?
Not at all. I never look into the looking glass to see if there's another wrinkle. I am more contented now in my mid-50s than I have ever been in my youth, and I treasure it.
Now that's what will appear on screen, probably on Monday. Katie Boyle revealing all to Russell Grant. And to the cameraman, the assistant cameraman, the sound recordist, the lighting man, the producer, usually a production assistant as well, and if it's a union-crewed ITV team, probably a few more besides.
Oh, that's right. To your hair again. Ah, right. Yes. Very interesting.
And don't be surprised if, when they come to interview you, they want to move the furniture. That natural-looking setting is often achieved by moving the chairs around to face the other way.
Did you know that? No. It's interesting, though. And
Always move the hands, Pat. I've never had this in my life. I never move that hand. I think it's a scream.
It just makes it look very natural when you talk.
And some of it will be so artificially contrived as to be tantamount to deception. The trouble with having pictures is if you edit them, they tend to jump. And that means that people's heads tend to jump about. So we cut in reaction shots of someone listening. First Katie to cover Russell's questions, then Russell to cover cuts in Katie's answers. They're known as noddies.
It's so unnatural, I can't believe this.
Yes.
I don't do that with my left hand ever.
looking at
There's this
somebody and
very
pretending
creative
to listen
side,
intently,
so
as
I
if you're in the middle of the
believe
interview,
maybe
isn't all that easy.
That's lovely.
There is a
And up again, please.
there is a sense of what you're doing, acting.
I got to try and entertain the man so he looks interested. Oh, how awful! Now, of course, my mind will go an absolute blank. My mind now doesn't go a blank, does it? No, not with those stars. No.
Russell, a little hand movement, please.
Oh,
to your head.
that's right. To your hair again. Ah,
Another
right.
hand, please.
Yes. Very interesting what I'm talking about, isn't it? Absolutely riveting. The other hydrangeas are not lace ones; they're just normal blue ones. But you have to put lots of rusty nails in them, because otherwise they lose the
It's a white shot.
the
You've got
blue.
a medium and a white shot. I'll
Did you
go
know
for a
that?
touch up.
No.
Of
It's
Russell and then
interesting, though.
Now, how did they get that shot of Russell? The camera was on Katie throughout the interview, and they only took one camera to her home. Well, actually, of course, they took two, because they needed a second one to get our shots of the first one for Did You See? But normally, there'd only be one. So how do you get the questions? Answer, you cheat. Someone writes Russell's questions down as he says them, then they move the camera and the lights round. It could even be after the interviewee has gone home. Then Russell asks his questions all over again.
Next one. What about intuitions? Are you guided by intuition? Moods?
Also, Aquarius is an extremely intuitive sign. I mean, are you guided by intuition, hunches? Are you sensitive to certain things around?
It gives you security. Just not question, just say, it gives you security.
It gives you security.
And remember this question?
What about the sign of youth?
What about the sign of youth? Gemini is the sign of youth. Does youth or growing older worry you?
Cut.
Now, after editing, the question is so well matched to Katie's reaction in the final version that you'd hardly notice it was there.
I love knowing about everything, but I would never stir, and I don't think I would ever divulge a secret of somebody.
What about the sign of youth? Gemini is the sign of youth. Does youth or growing older worry you?
Not at all. I never look into the looking glass to see if there's another wrinkle. I am more contented now in my mid-50s than I have ever been in my youth, and I treasure it.
Now, what's to stop them changing the questions? Well, nothing. All I can say is that in all my years in television, I've never known of it happening, and that's true. I know editing worries people. I do promise you that when it comes to the content of interviews, we're almost surprisingly honest. But when it comes to technique, frankly, take us with a pinch of salt. Any program that's edited, this one included, almost certainly cheats one way or another to cover the joins. And occasionally, we get caught out, of course. The techniques we go to so much trouble to conceal get revealed on air.
Well, he was always on the South Pier in Blackpool. I was always on the North Pier in Blackpool. And somebody had the bright idea to, wait a minute, I can see somebody fiddling with you on that chair.
No, you're not supposed to say that. You carry on talking.
Ah, I love it. Oh, no,
see, if they
it
don't
was your
fiddle-
mic,
I
was
know.
it, dear? Just your mic, nothing
him, he
else.
gets
dear.
paid for this.
Oh, I see, yeah, just your mic, all right, as long as it's only your mic, we're
Can I
all
carry
right,
on
there
with
we
it?
go.
Oh.
It's not just Russell Harty that needs a microphone. Next time you see an apparently spontaneous but highly intimate scene in a documentary, ask yourself, how did they get the sound of it? The participants, in fact, were probably wired for sound well in advance. The trouble with factual television, of course, is that there's rarely such a thing. Just by pointing cameras, lights and microphones at life, we render it artificial. And then we use other artificial devices to make it seem like it would have seemed had we not been there to make it artificial in the first place. Now, is that cheating? Well, if it's purely technical, I think not. But there is a school of program makers, especially documentary makers, who believe that since all television is an artifact, it's all right to stage things, to set them up from scratch. For my money, that's an editorial cheat, not a technical one. But it's a difficult line to draw. I suppose the only acid test is whether you, the viewer, would feel cheated if you discovered how we'd done it. Sometimes, frankly, I think you might. I leave you with the famous 5 lampooning the whole business.
I think that says quite a lot.
Did they get it this time? What? And have they got another hair in the gate or what?
Shut up, Dan.
Hey?
I said shut up.
Oh, Christ, shall we go again?
No, I'll go with this one.
What is crap?
No, we can cut the beginning off. It's just mic working.